Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first meeting of the new year. Happy New Year to everyone. This is a special meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission for Monday, January the 13th, 2014. Could I have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Spot?
Here.
Kalfayan? Sharkey?
Here.
Wu? President Khan.
Here.
The agenda for the January 13, 2014 special meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, January 10, 2014. At item 2, we have upcoming council agenda items.
Yes, President Khan and members of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission. Coming up next Tuesday, January 21st, 2014, at the City Council meeting, we do have a report requesting council action to increase developer impact fees based on a fee study, and this is a follow-up to a report made and direction received by the City Council on December 17th, 2013, where the Council directed staff to proceed with the preparation of an amendment to the ordinance and a fee resolution. As you know, development impact fees are collected for all new developments to pay for development of new parks and park facilities. So needless to say, this department has a lot to gain by a fee increase. And so we will be reporting out an increase up to the amount that would be allowed per a very comprehensive fee study that was conducted a couple of years ago. So that's coming up next Tuesday. On January 28th at the City Council meeting, we will be requesting approval to award an additional $79,000 in fiscal year 13-14 Workforce Investment Act funds to the Glendale Youth Alliance, which would bring their total appropriation for fiscal year 13-14 to $379,000. Also on January 28th at a joint City Council Housing Authority meeting, we will be requesting review and approval of the 2013 Homeless Continuum of Care funding application, which gets submitted to the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, and that will include approving the program priorities, and the total amount of the funding application is $2.4 million. Coming up on February 4th, 2014, we will request approval to award contracts for the purchase and installation of playground equipment at Maryland, Brand, Pacific, and Palmer, not to exceed $740,000. And this is on top of two playground improvement projects that are just being completed, which Mr. Tatavosian will touch on later in this meeting. Also on February 4th, we have on the docket a request for approval to submit a housing park grant application to the state of California, the amount of $350,000. These are funds that are made available to the city on a per capita basis based on the number of affordable housing units that the city has been able to develop within a certain period of time. So we are eligible to apply for $350,000, which we will apply to the Palmer Park improvement project. So we're thrilled about that, and we have a great grant writer in Mark Sturdivant. We're very confident that we will be awarded those funds. On February 11th at the City Council meeting, we will have a request for approval of a resolution of appropriation to appropriate funds to resurface the tennis courts and replace the lights at Fremont Park. We recently realized the deteriorated condition of the base of the light standards, and they are quickly becoming a safety concern. So we are going to be requesting appropriation of enterprise funds out of our enterprise fund balance to get those light standards replaced, and at the same time to resurface the tennis courts, which are due for resurfacing. And Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Very nice. Thank you. Was there any questions or comments from the report? All right. Thank you. What's next?
Next is item 3, Commission staff comments.
Any of the commissioners have comments? I do have a comment. that I wanted to bring up, seeing it's the new year. I brought this up before, and I want to see if we can put it on the agenda. And what it is a discussion about this Perkins Plaza area. And for many years now, it's a large paved area that's significantly underutilized out between the parking structure and the building. And if there is some consideration or exploring, seeing if that area could be better utilized, either with shade structures or with landscaping, also possibly for use of a small park area, like a mini park. You know, we have so little land that we have, and the city actually owns this. And all I'm suggesting is that we look into it or explore it. If you can come back to the commission, we can talk about it and see if it makes sense to to better utilize that area. So that's something that I'd like to recommend that we put on the next agenda for this commission.
Okay.
And if I might add, along those lines, I know a lot of building plazas are putting in tables and chairs for people to eat lunch, so that would be a good addition.
Great.
We'll come up with some information.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Is there any staff comments? Oh, okay. What is next?
Item 4 is oral communications. I do have a card for you.
Okay. Carmen, I'm going to attempt this. Liberidian. Thank you.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. We were supposed to have a DVD or this flyer up there, but the media things didn't work. So
Okay.
I gave my name. I'm from the Armenia Relief Society. I'm vice chair of the regional here in Glendale. And I was coming to let you know that we're having our third annual Winter Wonderland, which brings snow to Glendale. I'm sure you've heard about it.
Right.
We've done this 3 years, and we have about 6,000 to 7,000 people that come and attend. The kids have a really good time. We have rides and the snow. I know, can't see the flyer, but I'm going to do this again later today at the Status of Women, and we probably will have the DVD up by then. It's on Saturday and Sunday, February 1st and 2nd. It starts at 10 a.m. until midnight the first day, and then the second day it's up to 8 p.m. It's on the grounds of St. Mary's Church on 500 South Central in Glendale. And we would like everybody to come. The kids will come. Everybody will have a good time. We have really great food. And that's about it.
Is there a website or a phone
Yes,
number?
there is. Let me see.
Could you give that out?
Phone number is 818-500-1343. And the website is arswestusa.org.
Great.
Okay. We have talent shows and beauty contests also, and fashion show, arcades. I should have read a little bit to you since
Sure,
it's
go
out.
ahead.
But again, snow is really the most important thing because the kids love it. And this year we're going to have mounds so big that the parents can go, because the parents always want to go with the kids. Okay.
Great.
All right.
Well, we
Thank
look
you very
forward to
much
it. Thank you
the
for
time.
coming.
Thank you.
We don't have that anymore, do we?
The city's Winter Wonderland program was canceled 3 years ago due to budget cuts.
Okay, what is next?
Item 5, consent items at A, approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on October 21st, 2013.
So do we have a motion?
I move it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I'll take roll call. Commissioners Fuad,
Yes.
Khalfayed,
Yes.
Sharkey,
Yes.
Wu,
Yes.
President Khan.
Yes.
Item 6, business agenda A, action items. At 1, resolution establishing new rental fees for the multipurpose field youth soccer weekend tournaments and adult soccer leagues at the Pacific Community Center and Park.
President Khan, commissioners, with the advent of the new artificial turf currently under construction at Pacific Park, Staff is proposing to revise the fee structure for rentals in order to be consistent with the artificial turfs at the sports complex. And with the increased capacity to spend more hours on the field, staff is also proposing to add a civic-run soccer league, adult soccer league, in addition to a civic-run weekend youth tournament program. And so both of these proposals require new or different fee schedules for the Commission's approval. And so here to provide you with more details is Onig Bulanikian. Or, excuse me, Savag Garabidian. Savag, take it away.
Sure. Good afternoon, President Khan, members of the Commission. My name is Savag Garabidian, Community Services Supervisor for Pacific Community Center. I'm here today to recommend Commission's approval of proposed fees for Pacific Community Center's multipurpose field. Pacific Community Center was built in 2003. It is a joint-use facility between Glendale Unified School District, Libraries, Arts and Culture Department, and the Community Services and Parks Department. Some of the spaces, including the multipurpose field, are shared between Pacific Community Center and Edison Elementary School. On December 2nd, 2013, construction began to replace the existing multipurpose field with artificial turf. There's only one other Parks Department facility that has artificial turf fields. The sports complex would be that facility that offers two fields, fields number 4 and fields number 5. Both fields are used extensively by youth and adult groups. The completion of the artificial turf project will open up opportunities for significantly expanded use of the field in the forms of leagues, tournaments, and rentals. As stated in the report, we recommend the creation of an adult 9-on-9 soccer league that will address the demand for a city league during the months of August through January, where we don't otherwise offer one. We see the potential of unifying some of the clubs and organizations that practice on our fields in a weekend youth soccer tournament as well. The proposed fees are based on field number 4 at the sports complex. A benchmark study was also conducted, including the artificial turf fields rented out by the City of Los Angeles, the State of California, Glendale Unified School District, and Burbank Unified School Districts. With regards to the proposed fees charged for the adult league and the weekend soccer tournament, they are comparable to the prices we charge for the sports complex fee tournaments when we break it down cost per person per participant. The proposed fee for the field takes into consideration one staff person that has to monitor the field. Given the extensive use of the field prior to construction and the expected demand, and based on what we've seen at the sports complex over the last 10 years when we installed artificial turf there, constant monitoring of the fields is going to be required in order to make sure that the field meets its life expectancy. The facility is not budgeted for that additional one staff person. Also, a percentage of the revenue will be used to replace the turf at the end of its life expectancy of the field. And we're also considering not taking into consideration any unexpected, unforeseen expenses that may come up as a result of the field that wasn't included in design that might become a problem over time, or in case there's a repair for safety or anything like that before its life expectancy that we could utilize those fees for. There is a difference in the fee from what we charge at the sports complex. The sports complex offers a youth rate, a standard rate, and a commercial rate. At Pacific Community Center, we would like to also offer a nonprofit rate in addition to the other 3 rates that I just mentioned. That's just to be able to offer the facility to nonprofit organizations that serve the greater Glendale community, but won't qualify for the youth 90% of residency requirements for the youth rate. That's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions.
Do we have questions?
I have no questions.
Okay. I have a question. You speak very quickly, so you might have said it. You said that there's a staff person that's going to be assigned but has not been budgeted for.
Correct. And basically, when the field was natural grass, we wouldn't allocate one rec leader or facility attendant to monitor and supervise the field when we rented it out. Now that it's artificial turf, we're concerned that people might misuse the field or any damage might occur because of the types of liquids that are brought onto the field. That's very sensitive in terms of Gatorade or seeds and gum and stuff like that. So we need to have one staff person on the field constantly roving and reminding the users that, only water is allowed on the field. Please use it properly, and to that extent, and we're currently not budgeted for that. So the fees that we are proposing includes that one staff person's
Okay,
cost.
perfect. Thank you very much.
I do.
Go ahead, please.
Do we have a staff person at the sports complex?
We do have staff at the
Okay,
sports
sure.
complex
Okay.
that supervise the fields, both the baseball, the softball fields, and the soccer fields.
I thought so.
Yeah, Mr. President, if I may add, this will be an enterprise program project, meaning that all of its costs need to be recouped with the fees that we charge so that we keep up.
Okay.
Just like the sports complex operation.
Sure.
I have a question. Non-profit and youth groups, how do you differentiate those?
The nonprofit rate, the youth approved youth group for the city and our department is 90% of its members of that group need to reside in Glendale. So when they apply for the youth group rate, they need to submit. 60%. Thank you, Gabrielle. Gabrielle is the supervisor of the sports complex and normally deals with that rate on a consistent basis. So they need to provide a roster of their membership, and 60% need to meet that minimum 60% for them to be get the approved youth group rate for Glendale residents. The nonprofit rate is they have a 501c3, they submit their tax information, and upon approval, then they get the nonprofit rate. So a good example would be Levon Ishtoyan Foundation. Levon Ishtoyan Soccer Foundation might have a soccer academy for its Glendale residents and might be qualified for the youth rate, but it would also would like to have soccer practices for their adults or their parents, which have nothing to do with the kids or anything to that extent, but we could offer the field at a nonprofit rate, which is discounted slightly less than the standard rate. Another good one would be Homenet Men. The Homenet Men Glendale chapter would qualify for the youth rate, but let's say Homenet Men San Fernando Valley chapter or Pasadena chapter could qualify for using the field at the nonprofit rate.
If they have non-Glendale residents?
That's fine. It's at least 60% need to come in.
60.
And nonprofit is straight nonprofit as long as they meet the requirements.
I'm just curious, I assume there's more demand than there is space?
There is a tremendous demand.
How do you allocate the sparse time among the different groups and requests?
And basically, users that we have about 10 different organizations and various individuals. They will be able to ask for the facility on the nights that they used to get before the facility went down, before the field went down. Anybody else will try to plug in and start using a waiting list. As people cancel out, we'll bring in people from the waiting list. Every 3 months, a new waiting list will go off that new waiting list and start bringing in users from there and try to keep it going. We know that field number 4 and 5 have a tremendous demand, and field 4 and 5 alone aren't meeting the demand for soccer fields in the Glendale community. Pacific will be able to address some of that, but it will not be able to address all of the demand. Fortunately, soccer is booming, and we're only down to 3 city facilities that offer soccer fields.
So the waiting list is first come, first served?
First come, first serve. We're looking at the way City of LA's Sepulveda Basin Sports Complex does it is every 3 months they issue permits. After that, whoever turns it in first gets higher on the priority list, and when they're ready to issue for those 3 months, that's the priority list that they go off of. So if you're able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, then we'll plug those numbers in and then see what's going on. And then that doesn't also take into account like special events. If somebody or an organization is doing like a 1-week tournament type of a thing, it's a fundraiser or it's a soccer academy like FC Barcelona has done at the sports complex, then we'll talk to these regular users and see, is it okay for that 1 week if you not use the field because this is the event that's going on, your members can benefit as well.
So there's no priority for Glendale residents?
There is no priority for Glendale residents.
If I may, I'm Gabrielle Goley. I'm the sports complex supervisor. No, sorry. There is a slight priority given to the youth of Glendale, those approved community youth groups that Sevag was speaking about. The soccer season, although it has really grown over the years, and there's not really a season anymore because of the All-Stars and they play year-round, but the city has identified August through January as the traditional soccer season. During those months, the youth do get priority booking. So the approved community youth groups get whatever they need first, and then the sports complex staff allocate the remaining field time to the groups on a first-come, first-served basis.
Okay, that was my main question, and that's good. Yeah.
Again, thank you, Gabrielle.
Any other questions?
Okay, I do have a comment.
Sure.
I go up to the sports complex on the weekends, and there definitely is no shortage of people who want to use that complex, and the cars come in and then they come out as the field goes. So I'm all for raising fees for the maintenance and safety of our parks, because they're beautiful parks, just beautiful.
Okay. Now, we were given a resolution. Is that what this was for?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so this is a revised resolution that we're looking at, or a resolution? I shouldn't say revised.
It's a resolution, and in essence, you would be approving repealing the existing fees for the multipurpose field, which really refers to the natural turf multipurpose field, and then also establishing new fees for the artificial turf multipurpose field, and for the tournaments, and for the adult soccer league.
Okay, so do we have someone that would like to make that motion?
I'll move.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
I apologize. Who did the motion in the second?
Commissioner Fwad? Commissioner Wu?
Thank you.
Sure.
And I'll take roll call. Commissioners Fod,
Yes.
Helfine,
Yes.
Sharkey,
Yes.
Wu,
Yes.
President Khan.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What's next?
Next is item 6A2, motion to provide feedback on the potential renaming of Central Park to Veterans Memorial Park.
President Khan, Commissioners, at a recent City Council meeting, council members expressed an interest in discussing the potential of changing the name of Central Park to Veterans Memorial Park. Prior to the City Council's discussion, the City Council and the City Manager's Office would like this Commission's review and feedback, which is also consistent with the park naming policy. This question did come up 2 years ago in June and September of 2011, at which time both the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission and the City Council recommended and decided not to change the name of Central Park to Veterans Memorial Park or Veterans Park. But that notion has resurfaced, and so we would, plus we have 3 new commissioners, so we would like the commission to look at it again and provide whatever feedback you'd like to forward to the City Council. So with that, Teresa Alexanian could give you more details. Obviously, we did provide a report which summarizes the comments that were, or the feedback that was received by the commissioners 2 years ago. We've included a brief history of what we know as the history of Central Park and its naming and how it initially began to be referred as Central Park. And we spent some time in the report talking about the future improvements and a conceptual master plan for the area, not necessarily just the park. We do mention that as of now we do not have a master plan for the park itself. That's still something that we have to do in the future. There's the Central Library project, there's the ARC, there's the Paseo project, all of which you may deem to be significant or have no significance to changing the name from a Central Park to a Veterans Park. We also talk a little bit about the existing veterans memorials in the city, one here at City Hall, one in Montrose, and again, you may deem that adding a third will either dilute the 2 existing ones or enhance the significance in honoring our veterans. We do state what the current park naming policy is, and we raise some issues for consideration in discussing the merits of changing the park or not, or changing the name of the park or not changing the name, or maybe even just deferring the discussion until the current ongoing development projects are further along or completed. So again, with that, I'll turn it over to Teresa.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Khan, members of the Commission. Teresa Alexanian, Executive Analyst with the Department. In July of 2011, like Mr. Duran said, we did present this to Commission and took back the feedback from Commission to Council. And in September, the Commission's input was presented to City Council, which at the time, City Council decided to keep the name as is. The feedback that we received in 2011 from the then Commission where two commissioners stated that renaming the park may be premature and should be considered later when other linked projects in the area, such as the Central Library improvements and passageway project, are further along and have been discussed among various groups and commissions. There was also concern because the library is named Central Library based on the location of the library at Central Park. And this is true of most libraries. They're named after the area they're located in. And so changing the name of the park, how that would impact the name of the library or whether it should impact the name of the library. Furthermore, there were concerns that renaming the park may be duplication of efforts and a question of whether multiple displays and monuments in different locations could potentially dilute the city's efforts of honoring veterans. There was also feedback received from a commissioner who felt that there was merit to changing the name to Veterans Memorial Park and supported the idea. So one commissioner at the time supported the idea. And there was also one commissioner suggested for council to consider renaming the park to Memorial Park versus Veterans Memorial Park because the Memorial Park could be more of an encompassing name and would be more appropriate given the other potential park uses. Staff is presenting this report again to this commission for feedback because council would like to reconsider. The current area, which encompasses the Central Library, the park, and the ARC, is referred to as Central Park. From 1908 to 1937, Glendale Union High School and GCC occupied the area. From 1908 to 1929 was the Glendale Union High School, and from 1929 to 37 it was GCC. In 1938, the city purchased and constructed a park with tennis courts and a softball field occupying half of the property and flower shrubs and lawn occupying the other half. The first available reference to Central Park as the name for that area was an LA Times article in November of 1945. In 1949, the first ARC Adult Recreation Center was opened, and in early 1970s, Central Library was constructed. So that's a little bit of history on how the area and the naming came about. Current projects that are happening within that area or the site, there was a conceptual master plan of the area done in June 2009, and the former redevelopment agency approved the master plan for the blocks surrounded by Colorado Street, Grand Boulevard, Wilson Avenue, and Louise Street. The plan anticipated a three-phase redevelopment of the key civic pieces of the block that would start with the mid-block Central Park Paseo, the Museum of Neon Art, the Mona project, and reconstruction of the alley and parking lot. The Mona project is currently underway, and the Central Park Passageway project, which was a pedestrian passageway connecting Brand Boulevard with Central Park, ARC, and the library. So that's the other project that's happening in the area. And of course, the Central Library Improvement Project, which is reorienting the entrance to the library to face the Adult Recreation Center and the park. And that project is, I believe, currently in the design stage. In light of the information and the various projects that were going to take place in that area, the actual park, which we refer to as Central Park, which is a 1.5-acre park, was purposely minimal in its design to be able to encompass or include whatever council may decide later on once all these projects once all these projects are complete. So a master plan for the park currently does not exist. So when the second phase of the ARC project, which was the park, was completed, the design was very minimalistic. The conceptual master plan was to also conceptualize, identify, and evaluate the potential role of the civic block in relationship to the continued commercial and residential growth of downtown Glendale, as well as the development and needs of the neighborhoods located in the area. There was also talk about a sister city monument or sister city monuments going into that park, and Glendale currently has 7 sister cities, and the first step was taken in that direction when Council approved in July of 2013 the Comfort Woman Peace Monument that was installed at the park. Things to bear in mind while considering a potential renaming of the park are the fit with the existing project, so the Mona project, the Passageway, and the future Central Library project that will be taking place. So how does renaming the park to Veterans Memorial Park play into the different aspects of the projects that would go into that area? Duplicating efforts, because we have the War Memorial outside of City Hall and the one in Montrose, like Mr. Duran mentioned. Adding a display which is not budgeted. So would we, by renaming it to Veterans Memorial Park, does that mean we would add some kind of a monument to Central Park or Veterans Memorial Park to honor the veterans? And would that mean, either moving the one outside of City Hall or installing something new? And of course, that's not budgeted currently. So that's something else to take into consideration. And of course, other potential uses. So whether it's movies in the park or different events that might happen at the park or future master planning. Do we want it as a passive park or do we want it as an active park? So other future potential uses of the park, and how would that be limited with the name change to Veterans Memorial Park? There is a park naming policy guideline for the department, and this was adopted in September of 1988. And as part of that policy, it does say that the Parks Commission will recommend the name to City Council. And one of the things that there's 4 items or 4 components of that policy, and one of them being a name which honors an individual who has made a significant contribution to the city, state, or nation. So looking as that as one of the criteria, it would be appropriate as far as the policy is concerned to rename it to Veterans Memorial Park if the council commission recommends and council chooses to go that route. So that's one of the criteria that would need to be evaluated, and it would meet that. It would be appropriate based on the parks policy, parks renaming policy. The staff is currently looking for recommendation, review, and feedback from the commission so that we can take it back to council for their consideration.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I think we should, in terms of the commission, it would be important to hear from each of the commissioners. But before we do that, is there questions that any of the commissioners have of staff at this point?
What were the council's, do we know what initiated the council's request, and what were their comments, and how did this come about?
Well, there was a specific group that was looking to rename the park, so that's how the request came before council.
You mean a veterans group of some sort?
Yes, a veterans group. I forget their exact title, but it's the Armenian Veterans Association that had requested this of council back in 2011. And so council's asking to reconsider this for that same purpose. At the time, there was various feedback received and the council members. Some thought that we needed a master plan for the area, for the park, and they would rather see a master plan before they made a decision for a name change. Some thought it would be duplicating it because there is currently one outside of City Hall, and but unanimously that they decided not to change it, or majority vote was not to change it. But basically, those are 2 of the main reasons why council decided to keep the name.
Well, in the current iteration, are they recommending it be changed, or they just say
they are not
consider
making a recommendation? They would like for it to go before council, but before we take the report to council, we would like your recommendation to be able to go to them. So they haven't reviewed it yet. They've just asked for it to be agendized.
Oh, so they haven't recommended it should be called veterans or anything else. They just want to get our feedback first.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I do have a question. So
Sure.
the only way we could rename the park is to honor an organization or a person? Is that the only?
No, there's also a name which has recognized geographic, topographic, historical, or botanical significance, named after an individual or families who have donated property for the development of a park, or the selection process may include, whether deemed appropriate, a contest or competition, if it is felt that such an alternative would promote great community-wide interest and participation. So those are some of the other things to, criteria to consider in renaming the park. But specifically for this purpose, it was the name which honors an individual or who has made significant
just for this
contributions.
purpose, so
Right, for
other
this-
ideas could come.
Right, I was just
Okay.
mentioning that the request would fall within one of the criterias of a park renaming policy.
As long as I've lived in Glendale, I've never heard it referred to as Central Park. I've heard the park next to the library, the park on Colorado, the park, and certainly not to diminish the importance of veterans. It's just something, I just had an idea of maybe somewhere down the line when this master plan comes in, so we actually see what's going on, that we gave, like the Staples Center, the naming rights and maybe a donation to Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, and you had naming rights for 5 years, 2 years with the donation. But as far as anything else, I can't really. So I would probably go with number 3 in the recommendations.
And number 3 is what now?
To consider changing name of Central Park at the time that the master plan has been adopted
Okay.
and the redesign. So,
Okay, thank you.
but you're welcome.
Please.
I mean, obviously, no one would diminish the importance of veterans, but I agree with the Commissioner. I think it's premature. I think this is probably the premier sort of urban park in the city. I mean, brand is good, but I mean, this is a
Yeah.
big park, a big deal, so it shouldn't be taken lightly. And there's so many other names that, you know, could be Library Gardens. I mean, there's just a lot of names. Maybe a competition, maybe.
Yeah, just something.
Certainly, with the master plan, you'll get a feel of how everything fits in. Veterans is sort of, I mean, again, not to diminish, but it's sort
Of
of
course
a generic name, and I think we can do a lot better, either suggestions from the community or, you know, staff or somebody. So I would opt for deferring it.
So you would opt for number 3 as well?
That's what number 3 says.
Okay. Commissioner?
Well, I concur with Commissioner Shockley and Fod. I think that this is something that we do need to take more consideration in looking into. It was considered back in 2011. At the time, the commissioners did raise valid points, and I don't know if we've had any future development. I mean, we've had any further development since then. We still don't have a master plan for the Central Park. We do have the memorial in front of City Hall as well as at Montreux. So I would think that this is something that we do need to consider and maybe be more sensitive to the community's desires as well and get their input as well. So I concur with both of my colleagues in deferring it for a further date.
And if I may, just, you know, there's like you can have a veterans garden within a larger park. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can slice and dice names. So just to say it all one thing, I mean, it takes a lot of thought. So.
I think Central Park, it seems more appropriate with the new developments that they'll be coming up than Memorial Park. And the suggestions that came along and resurfaced this idea, do they have any funds that they're offering that will be considered that they're offering so much funds and then we can put the names on? Otherwise, I would like to see it remain the same.
In terms of the timing, you mentioned 3 different projects. You mentioned the Mona, which is under construction, and then you mentioned the passageway and then Central Library. So from a completion perspective, when is the Mona going to be completed? I'll look to whomever.
Maybe I'll take a stab at that, President Khan. The building itself is anticipated to be completed within the next year, and then the occupant, the museum, has another year for tenant improvements prior to their occupancy. However, the adjacent passageway should be done before the Mona occupant is in, along with the improvements that Teresa referenced, along with the improvements in the alleyway and the existing parking lot. So those will all be done within the next 2 years, and the occupant will be in place within the next 2 years.
Okay. And then the central library?
The Central Library project is currently just undergoing design. They haven't really finalized their design. However, the concept design in terms of introducing what Teresa referenced to as an entrance from the south side and creating a plaza space has already been vetted out. The plaza space where there's current parking hasn't been designed, and it's not on anyone's design radar yet. However, as the project proceeds, as the library project proceeds, that will go online. That design will also go online.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I agree with the rest of the commissioners. We're 2 years out in terms of completion of the Mona, at least it looks like, in the passageway, and for a variety of reasons. It would make sense to kind of see the way that this area develops. And I agree with Commissioner Fouad. I mean, there are different ways of honoring different groups within a park. It doesn't necessarily mean just because we're not naming the park after the veterans, it doesn't mean that we can't acknowledge or recognize them within the park in some way. So I completely agree with that. So I too would recommend that we look at number 3 to consider changing the name of Central Park at some time in the future with a master plan for the park once it's been further developed, and we can then come back, and maybe at that time it comes back in front of this commission. We can see how it's evolved and then have some further discussion. I think it's a little premature right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. What is next?
Next, we have item 6B, reports information only at 1, Glendale Rose Float update, oral report.
President Khan, commissioners, we wanted to give a very brief Rose Float recap. As most of you know, we did, do we have a video?
Yes.
We did receive the governor's trophy, which represents the award for the best depiction of life in California. But we wanted to show you briefly from start to finish what goes into building the float. As you know, the City Council authorized a budget of $150,000, and we contracted with Phoenix Decorating. This is their warehouse. They build about 20 of the floats that you see in the parade, so ours is one of the 20 that they contract to build. I believe this is the first road test, which is conducted probably in July or August, so it's very early. And it goes out, goes back into the warehouse. Then we have the cadre of volunteers. Thousands of volunteer hours go into this. It's very tedious work. And all the fresh flowers are not installed until 2 days before the New Year's Day, because they have to remain fresh. And if you saw it out on Brand Boulevard, you could see by the second day that it was out on display that the flowers were already beginning to die out. And of course, the warm weather doesn't help.
Did you select someone from the residents to sit on the...
Yes, yes, they were all Glendale residents. Oh, and then this is bringing the float back from Pasadena to Glendale, which Coco and One could give you the horror stories about what it takes to bring it back to Glendale. We received a lot of media attention on this year's float because of the message. The word really got out, and Meatball was famous before. He's a lot more famous after the float. So that's the 2014 float. We anticipate going to council in mid-March for direction regarding a 2015 float. So we'll give you an update before and after we do that report as well.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Meatball does have a Twitter account. He's great.
Congratulations to us. Huh?
Yes, and all the volunteers,
Yeah, absolutely.
all the work put into it. So, great job,
Yeah, it was. We won the
governors.
governor's sword.
So that's one of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Not the biggest.
The sweepstakes.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the biggest, but it's a significant one. It's a prominent one.
For small ones. Right?
Yes, definitely. Probably for the smallest, yeah, the smaller caliber.
Well, that was great. Congratulations to everybody. It worked out really nicely. Okay. What's next?
Next, we have item 6B2, 2013 Summer Aquatics Program Evaluation.
Good afternoon, President Khan, members of the Commission. I'm Gabrielle Golia, the Sports Supervisor, and that includes the Aquatics Program. I know it feels a little late for me to be up here reporting on summer aquatics. It's not that cold, but our program did actually wrap up at the end of October. So with the holidays in between the end of October and now, this is why I'm here in January. Our summer aquatics program, I've got a little PowerPoint for you. Our summer aquatics program is operated primarily at the Pacific Park Pool. The program runs from, this year it ran officially from Memorial Day, which was May 27th, through September 29th in 2013. We operate recreational swimming, instructional lessons, a community swim team, community water polo. We have a junior lifeguard academy that we offer for the younger kids who aren't old enough to be lifeguards yet, but who are very interested in participating on a higher level than just swimming lessons. We have drop-in exercise programs, aqua Zumba classes, which are a lot of fun, and we have 5 different wading pools that we operate. The program began in 2000, the aquatics program, in response to community demand for additional summer programming. In 2000, the city operated the old original Pacific Pool, and we also operated Glendale High School and Hoover High School. Since then, we've operated various high school locations based on the budget of the year and the availability of the high schools, and that's at all 3 of the high schools, Glendale, Hoover, and Crescenta Valley. And then we opened the Pacific Community Pool in 2011, which did coincide with some reduction in budgeting and programming at the other high school pools. So since 2012, we have operated just the Pacific Community Pool. We do still occasionally use Hoover High School Pool for practices for the swim team and water polo in order to ease up some of the scheduling at Pacific Pool and to allow for more programming options. We also operate 5 wading pools during the summer. We have Brand Park, Palmer Park, Glen Oaks, Dunsmore, and Fremont Parks. And 2 of those wading pools are open every single day, Monday through Friday, on a varying basis. So they rotate around, and then on the weekends they're available for private rentals. Our recreation swim program is very popular. We're open in the afternoons. Children under 4 are free, and all the other prices range from 50 cents to $3 based on age. We do offer an unlimited summer pass. So if people are planning on coming regularly, which some people do, they come every single day, they can buy an unlimited summer pass and save some money. Monday through Friday, the program is open approximately 1 to 4 p.m., depending on other programming activities that are going on. Saturday and Sunday, it's open from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And during the summer GUSD break, we have about 157 kids a day that are there. Total summer attendance this year was 14,554 entries. Our swim lesson program is incredibly popular. It continues to be one of the most popular programs. We are at 100% plus participation every single summer. We do offer 2 different time frames. You can either take a Monday through Thursday class or a Friday, Saturday, Sunday class. The cost for youth is $40 and adult lessons are $55. A youth is anywhere from 6 months to 15 years and an adult is 16 years and over for the swimming lesson program. Participation increased by 11% this summer. We were at approximately 103% enrollment. When classes are over-enrolled in that manner, we use junior lifeguards to help teach the classes. We always try to keep the average size to 7 students per 1 instructor, but when we do exceed that size, that's when we put in a junior lifeguard. So that's how we're able to take an over-enrollment. And 3,130 enrollees were part of our program this past summer. Our swim team is called the Glendale Gators, and our water polo program is called the Glendale Polo Bears. And the fee for these programs is $75 each, and it is supplemented by the LA 84 grant, which is money that was left over from the Los Angeles 84 Olympics. So we apply every summer for a grant, and we typically receive about $10,000 to help augment this program. Our drop-in exercise and Aqua Zumba classes, Aqua Zumba is becoming more and more popular. Drop-in exercise is just a daily exercise class, traditional aqua aerobics. Aqua Zumba is a water-based workout that integrates the Zumba formula and philosophy into traditional aqua fitness classes. We have an actual instructor. She is a certified Aqua Zumba instructor, and she brought the idea to us and has been teaching it for a couple of years now since we opened, and it's becoming quite popular.
What is the Zumba philosophy?
I don't take the class, but it's a dance. It's basically exercise combined with a dance, like a Latin dance, and she does it on the deck while the participants are dancing in the water to get their workout. It's a lot of fun.
Maybe, you never know.
Aqua Zumba, we try to limit it to 12 and above. If we have a mature, younger than 12-year-old who's interested in coming with a parent, we would certainly make some exceptions. But it is more of an adult class, or young adult and adult.
That's what it shows, right?
This is that's a picture of our drop-in exercise class. That's one of our lifeguards teaching it. And we have a nice group of ladies that come every day for the drop-in exercise classes. They really enjoy it. We offer wading pool rentals in addition to the general pools for birthday parties and special events. The pools, like I said, are open to the public 12 to 5 p.m. daily, Monday through Friday. But we begin offering the pools for rentals as early as April and all the way through the end of October. So parents most of the time will rent them out for birthday parties on the weekends whenever the pool is not available to the public. Rentals are $100 for the first hour and $25 for every additional hour of swim time.
And each wading pool has a certified lifeguard watching over the pool, even though it's, 18 inches of water?
Yeah, they vary at each pool. They're anywhere from 1 foot to 2 feet of water. And some of them vary within the pool. That is Dunsmore. Dunsmore's a little deeper in the middle, and it's shallower around the outside so that the wee ones can swim. The wading pools are for 8 years old and under. And the rental and the daily operation does include chemicals in the water, filling the pool, and a lifeguard who's on duty the entire time. In 2013, we had 98 pool rentals. In 2012, we had 84. Every year, it's just growing and growing, and people are calling us already to book this year's wading pool rentals. And that's all we have for the Summer Aquatics program. Can I answer any questions?
Questions?
I have quick question.
Please.
Looking at the rental comparisons, I noticed that Palmer and Fremont, the rental, occurrences are fairly low in comparison to Dunsmore, Brand, and Glen Oaks.
Yes.
Do you know as to, is it solely because of where they're located, or?
Palmer is a much smaller wading pool. I can speak specifically about that one for sure. It is a smaller pool than all the rest of them. And both Fremont and Palmer are lacking a picnic table right next to them. A lot of the families who are calling us looking for wading pool rentals want a picnic table, one or two, that are right by it so that they can set up their food and their cake and ice cream. So when the staff are recommending pools based on the criteria that the parents give us, we tend to recommend Glen Oaks and Dunsmore and Brand a little bit more just because of the table locations.
So are we able to add any tables to Palmer or Fremont?
Maybe I'll chime in.
Yeah.
Commissioner, if not in February, but definitely in March, we'll be coming to you with our design concept for Palmer Park renovation project, and that includes not only a new wading pool, but also additional picnic areas adjacent to the wading pool to meet the demands of our community, not just rental purposes, but also for use purposes.
Yeah, that'd be great, because we see that the other three pools are doing really well, and if we could just get some tables in there and we could get more families out there.
Yes. They're very popular for the Monday through Friday programming. This doesn't represent the actual participation on a day-to-day basis. It's only the private rentals. And on Monday through Friday, day-to-day use, they're just as high as the rest of the parks because the neighborhood kids are all coming out and using it. So this only represents that private rental for birthday parties.
Thank you.
When I was growing up in another city, they had evening swimming sessions, like from 7 to 9. Why doesn't Glendale offer those?
Our pool is actually open until almost 9 p.m., actually after 9 p.m. every single day. It's used for swimming lessons in the evenings. So and lap swim, we do offer lap swim in the evenings. So I was only talking about the recreation swim in the afternoons. We actually open the pool at 6:30 in the morning for lap swim and swimming lessons. All morning long, and then we go into rec swim for the entire afternoon period, and then we go back into lessons and lap swim and water polo and swim team in the evenings. So it is used from 6:30 a.m. until 9 p.m. daily.
On those private lessons and private reservations, do you take deposit?
For the wading pools, we don't do a deposit to hold it. We do require the full payment when you make the reservation in order to hold the pool. It's $100 for the first hour, and then should you wish to add on, you could always call back later and add on more. And people are welcome to call the sports office at 818-548-6420 to make a reservation.
And we have what kind of insurance policy we have that covers all those actions?
We actually require all participants to sign a release of liability. We've worked with the legal department and with the risk manager for the private rentals. And so we ask that the parents, if it's an organization that's renting it, then we would require a proof of insurance naming the city as additionally insured. But typically for the birthday parties, it's just a family. And so what we do ask is that all participants and their parents sign a release of liability.
Does that answer your question? So if it's an organization, the organization is responsible for obtaining a liability certificate naming the city as additional insured. If it's individuals, and each individual signs a liability waiver.
You mentioned about Commissioner Wu had a question about why is there a lower level in some of these parks. You mentioned that they didn't have a table near them. Are there other items that you see when you're conducting this that you think would be helpful to have that we currently don't have to encourage people to swim?
I don't know if there's items we've been working very closely with the CIP department and section and working with Emil on identifying areas that help. There are certainly benefits to having picnic pavilions and shade structures at various parks, and we are, I think, looking at some of those for Palmer Park. Mm-hmm. And we're also talking about Fremont and the overall master plan of Fremont. But generally, I think having a picnic table and shade, whether it's from trees or from a shade structure, are the biggest elements that the parents are really interested in at the wading pools.
The only item I would add, President Khan, is proximity to restrooms.
Yes.
Especially for kids wading pool age. Many of the parents for birthday parties or events, they like to be close to the restrooms. So as we are redesigning or improving many of our parks, we keep that in mind to make sure that as we are adding picnic tables, they're close to the restrooms, yet they have enough separation for both privacy of the restroom as well as the joy or the usefulness of the picnic areas.
Makes sense. Okay.
Has the city considered adding wading pools to other parks, or that's just a function of cost?
At this point in time, we haven't actively been pursuing wading pools at additional parks. I know that these wading pools in particular have been grandfathered in. There are new standards with both ADA accessibility as well as the filters and the pump systems. So it does change it, and I think that because of that, we lean a little bit more towards the splash pads. If we're going to be adding in a water component to a park, we look at that a little bit more than the wading pools. There's also a cost of staffing because any standing body of water does require by the public health code that we have a lifeguard on duty anytime there's water in it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
What's next?
And next, we have item 6B3, monthly activity reports at A, Park Services.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Khan, members of Commission. Happy New Year to you. Good to see you all again. Last couple of months, we were unable to report on our activities. Hence, you'll notice this month's activity report encompasses October, November, and December work orders. As far as October is concerned, we were quite busy. A lot of field renovations this year. Staff completed 231 work orders, of which 171 were completed by gardeners, 6 work orders for pesticide application, irrigation repairs 54, for total work hours of 938 and a half for the month of October. November, a little less, be 141 work orders, 78 through our gardeners, 2 for pesticide application, and 61 for our irrigation repair crews. And the month of December were 144 work orders, 119 for gardeners, 1 for pesticide application, and irrigation crews completed 24 work orders for a total of 612 and a quarter labor hours for the month. We have prepared for you a monthly activity report of some of the projects staff have completed. For the 3 months, we've noted down for the sake of time. We'll highlight a couple that you may not have seen in the past. One was City Hall. If you walk the grounds of City Hall, you notice there's some improvement to the landscaping, whether it be the Perkins, whether it be the garden. Staff put in quite a bit of an effort to do plant replacement. This is the Perkins Plaza. We identified quite a bit of irrigation issues at this site, and as a result, a lot of our landscaping and vegetation were either dead and or dying. Of course, if this is City Hall, this would be unacceptable. We started with clearing the dead plants first, having it all cleaned out. Irrigation crews came in and made some significant adjustments to the irrigation where every head was working and covering appropriately. And then we started installing drought-tolerant, drought-resilient plants in the 3 layers in the Perkins Plaza so that for one given time they're going to grow and fill in, and once they're established we'll have to use necessarily less water for it to be maintained. And this is the 3 layers in the Perkins Plaza. It did take quite a bit of staff work, and most of the staff have been pulled from other sites to complete this project. Moving from the Perkins Plaza, this is after the irrigation is done, and we brought in quality mulch to be able to layer it and cover it. It's good for, it controls the weeds, and it also absorbs more moisture, so it's ideal for any planting to capture it and cover it with mulch. Here's the completed version. And we also did some of the side planters. They were not mulched. We completely mulched those planters by the MSP. This is on the Glendale Avenue side, west, I believe, east of Perkins, an area where we had not planted in some time. Staff went in and identified some beautiful, again, drought-tolerant, drought-resilient plants and flowers, and they have beautified this area a lot more than it was. The whole stretch of the Perkins entrance for the north side has been landscaped. These are by the MSP as well. Cleaned, all the dead plants have been removed, and it's mulched to show better resiliency. This area is the Departure Plaza coming towards the City Hall building, this one. We annually, as you notice, quarterly, we used to replace the plants. We've gone into a plant where it'll probably last longer than your 3 months or 4 months. Rather than going seasonal, we plug things in that will last a lot longer, again, drought resilient, and which should kind of change and fade into colors. It'll still look a longer period. It'll help with our maintenance, watering, and as well as having to replace it more frequently. A lot of the beds, if you notice going by now, will have a variety of plants in there. And after the plantings were done, again, with quality bark to kind of give it that aesthetic look and control weeds. There is the one of the planters' final planting. Next, Brand Park. I don't quite have a lot of pictures of this cleanup area, but this is east of the library where we've had a lot of vegetation growth, trees that were too low, the branches, and it doesn't have a good visual. With PD wanting us to clean this area up so they can have a better visual sight to all the areas and just a better control with litter and use. It gets heavy use in this area, so just a couple of pictures of staff lifting the trees so you have a better view all the way and it's not blocked, and for hikers that use this area be able to kind of find their trail. Only 2 pictures now. Future will show you more. We're working closely with our friends at the Glendale Youth Alliance into doing more brush clearance in the area, and we'll be doing a bit more in the next couple of months before the library opens. So once you get into the library plaza where they have a lot of planned programming in the future, you have a nice little view of the vegetation, and it's not, crowded with all kinds of vegetation growth. And a lot of tree work in this area we'll be completing. We'll show you those pictures at a later time. Fremont Park, the Rose Gardens, this area requires quite a bit of work because the weeds in the Rose Garden tend to grow, and unless you put bodies to it and actual labor, it is hard to maintain. This is a Memorial Rose Garden, and what you're seeing only now is the completed work of all the areas de-weeded, but initial pictures, if we had any, would show you it required quite a bit of work. We put a crew in this park, and we got all the roses back into their beautiful shape, pruned, and all the weeds were cleaned out of the rose beds. Riverwalk. If you're familiar with the Riverwalk, once you get to midway by the Disney ABC area, there used to be, the initial plan was they had put in natural grass in this area. With a little bit of irrigation problem here and there, and given that the area is more set for natural setting, grass did not quite work as best as we thought it was. We ended up with a lot of weeds, and to some degree not maintained to the level that it should be, because the grass does require a little more sincere maintenance. So the plan the staff proposed and we agreed to is to remove all the grass in this area and actually plant natural vegetation in this area. And once we got the approval to proceed, we started removing all the grass. It took a crew working a few days. All the grass, we killed the grass, shifted to the side, clear the area, identify all the irrigation heads, because once we did that, we had to fix the irrigation, make sure there's proper coverage all around. Once the area was all cleared and the irrigation was fixed, staff brought in natural, again, drought-tolerant vegetation that's more ideal for this area because it is the Riverwalk, it is more natural beauty, and laid out all the plants in the little bed area. And after we completed with the plant installation, yet again brought in quality mulch, laid the mulch all around, and here's your view, a different look, more natural look, and more drought-tolerant look. Again, once we have the vegetation established, we will be using less irrigation in this area, leading to less maintenance and, overall less cost. And this is the final test for the irrigation. And I believe that concludes the presentation for this month. Are there any questions?
You cut the trees on the Civic Auditorium on Mountain. You guys cut those large trees out there? Thank you.
Well, I thought you were going to... Well, there were reasons why some of those trees needed to be cut. And as a matter of fact, you're talking about on Mountain Avenue. Oh, yeah, they desperately needed it.
Yes,
it was costly. To be honest, that was a costly venture. And given the fact that a couple of years ago with the heavy windstorms, we lost one of them, it was a lot of weight on those trees, and it needed desperately to be reduced.
Looks so much better.
They do look so much better. They're a lot safer for the community. And if you notice, there is the large trunk that's still sitting there from the last one. Eventually, we're going to take care of that problem too. But yes, I do agree. They look much better and much safer for the community.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Item 6B3B, Park Planning and Development.
Commission Chair and members of the Commission, we saved the parade pictures for Coco this time. I know we haven't met in 3 months, or 2 months at least, but we haven't been sitting idle. You may recall that we grand reopened Catalina Vertigo in December. It's in full operation, and the residents seem to be completely happy with the results so far. You may also recall that we had a groundbreaking for Maryland Avenue Park. That project, along with the artificial turf at Edison Elementary School and Maple Park improvements, are all underway. And I hope that before the end of spring, early summer, all these, the 3 parks will be open to the public with improvements and finished projects. In terms, Jess earlier referred to our playground replacement effort. The playground at New York Park has been fully replaced and it's open to the public. Currently, the Dunsmore playground is closed to the public because it's undergoing improvements. We'll get a new structure put into that park within the next 2 weeks. It'll be open to the public. And we also had a small play structure placed at Vertigo Park along the northern part of the park. As Jess also indicated, coming up in February, early part of February, we'll ask Council to approve a purchase order to proceed with replacement of play structures at Brand Park, the northern picnic area, Palmer Park as part of our Palmer Park Improvement Project, Pacific Park. You may recall that park got somewhat compromised when the play structure area got somewhat compromised when we built the pool structure, the aquatic center. So our hope is to update that play structure area and then really bring it up to par for the neighborhood. And also, I missed one. We said, Maryland. Maryland Park, as part of its new facility, will get a new play structure as well. That concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What's next?
6B3C, Workforce Development.
Good afternoon, President Khan and Commissioners. Just a couple business items, and then I'll give a brief highlight of things that are happening in our economy. At the end of 2013, the city manager had asked for a research paper from our division looking at the possibility of moving our division, workforce development, over to the economic development program that's currently housed in the Management Services Department of the city. So we're in the process of doing that. We're near completion of a draft, and so we'll see what the result of that. But basically, it's to look at the pros and cons of making that merger, basically. I think there's a feeling in the city manager's office that we have a synergy between workforce development and economic development. The fact that we both are concerned about the local economy and both are looking at assisting local employers, and so I think they feel that there's some advantage in combining our sections. So that's in process. Also, just another informational item, our Verdugo Job Center recently was approved as an assister site for the Affordable Care Act. So residents that aren't covered by medical insurance have the opportunity to come into our office to get help in terms of signing up for health insurance through our agency. Last week I gave an update on our local economy, and I just wanted to point out some highlights to you to give you a sense of what's happening locally. On a national level, our unemployment rates actually dropped in the last couple of years from 8.3% down to 6.7% as of last Friday. Just looking at that at face value, you might assume that the economy and the labor market are doing pretty well, but the reality is that that drop has occurred mostly because people are giving up looking for work. We're at a 35-year low in terms of the size of our labor force. Also, if you look at part-timers that want and temporary workers that want full-time work, and count them as unemployed, the rate would actually be closer to 13%. So it's not as rosy a picture as it might seem. The other big problem for our economy is that a lot of the unemployed, 4 million out of the 11 million unemployed, have been unemployed longer than 6 months. It's about 35% of the unemployed population. Locally, when we first started looking at this problem a few years ago, covering the Glendale, Burbank, and parts of the city of LA that are adjacent to us, we were looking at about 28,000 people that fit into that category that were considered long-term unemployed. And it's easy to assume that a lot of this population are people without any type of skills. They're having trouble getting back into the labor force, but the actuality is that 4 out of 5 have high school diplomas, half have had some college, and 1 out of 5 have previously worked in management or professional occupations. So these are people that did have skills previously. The problem with people that have been unemployed so long is at some point they start losing the skills and don't become employable anymore. And that's becoming a real problem in our U.S. economy and locally as well. Just to point to some of the mismatches that are occurring in our economy as well, there are 3 unemployed people for every job opening that exists. But at the same time, 40% of our employers are saying that they can't find the skilled people that they need. If you look out into the future related to this issue, by 2020, 75% of the U.S. jobs, that's 122 million, will require a higher skill level, and only 100 million of those will be, U.S. residents will be qualified to take those jobs. So we're going to have a real problem in terms of meeting the higher skill level jobs in the future. There's expected to be 41 million low skill jobs by 2020, and we're expected to have 64 million that are going to compete for those jobs. So that picture creates a situation where we have so many lower skill people competing for just a minimal number of jobs. LA County predicts a 3% increase in the number of jobs in LA County in 2014, but the rest of the county is expected to grow much more slowly. A lot of that growth is occurring on the west side because of all the technology jobs and companies that are coming into the west side. That's basically a summary of what's happening with our labor market. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions? No. I did have one question, Don. You mentioned that you were looking at combining workforce with economic development. Does that mean you'll still stay under the parks umbrella, or will you go to community development?
We would go actually to, I believe, a new section of the city or a new department that would be called the Economic Development Department. So we would actually move out of the Parks Department.
Yeah, President Khan, Commissioners, that department has actually already been established. So depending on the final analysis of the research paper, workforce development may merge with the Economic Development Department and have a more expanded comprehensive focus on business assistance.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. What's next?
Next, we have item 6B3D, Recreation and Community Services.
President Khan, members of the Commission, attached in your packets you have the monthly activity report for the last 3 months, October, November, and December, for our Recreation and Community Services. I'd like to touch base on 2 events that happened last this reporting period, actually. We had the Glendale Health Festival held on November 2nd at the Glendale Civic Auditorium. This was an event sponsored and put on by the Armenian Medical Society of California and Glendale Healthy Kids. We had a number of members in the committee from the city, from Glendale Healthy Kids, Armenian Medical Society, Glendale Memorial Hospital. Close to 2,000 people attended the event. This was a free event where there were free health screenings on high blood pressure, cholesterol, bone health, bone density screenings. A total of 620 eye screenings were given by the Lions Club, 315 flu vaccines provided by LA County, 75 mammogram vouchers, and 675 blood draws. And all this was done free of charge to the residents in Glendale. Next year's event will be held again at Civic Auditorium, and I believe it'll be the first Saturday in November, which is November 1st. The second event that our section was involved in was the holiday tree lighting event that was held December 4th. We were happy that we were asked to put on the event. We had over 500 adults and children that attend the event. Thanks to Commissioner Wu, who volunteered his time as Master of Ceremonies, Cerritos Elementary Choir, the Crescendo Valley High School, Charismatic Callers, they performed at the event, and also a special thanks to Neptune Productions, which is a production company based in Glendale. They provided lighting at no cost. We just went ahead and picked up the equipment, and staff set up the lighting and all the equipment. So to keep down our costs, we did ask for in-kind donations, and I'd like to thank Neptune Productions for that. It was a really fun event, and we also surprised event goers with some fake snow coming off the Perkins building and the parking structure. So it was really fun, and we hope that the event does come back next year too. So we'll be looking forward to that. In regards to Civic Auditorium, month of October we had 24 events. We had an income of $27,921. In November we had 23 events with income of $34,883. And in December we had 28 events with $39,815. It was a very busy December with the city's annual holiday party being at the Civic Auditorium and a number of deliveries for special events that we've had in December. The year-to-date total revenue is $194,760, which is a slight increase from the previous year. So it looks like we have a positive. We've had a positive 6 months, so we're excited about that. The Customer Service Office and Community Center report. In October, we brought in $46,962. In November, $28,886, and in December, $43,000 and some change. Year-to-date was $299,000, up 14% from last fiscal year. So, as I mentioned, we're on track to hopefully meet our 5% increase in rental revenue for our department for this fiscal year.
Great.
Any questions? I know that was quick. But
that was very nicely done. I have to run out in 1 minute. Okay. Thank you. So we got one last item.
Yes, that would be item 63E, Human Services.
Okay.
She could take a little longer, right? Tim?
Good afternoon, President, Con Commissioners, and staff. I'm Maggie Kavarian, Community Services Supervisor for the Senior Services Programs, and I'm going to be discussing our holiday wrap-up from October to December. We were also very busy having our seniors participate in a lot of programs. And let me just go ahead and get started. Before we actually decided to do a lot of these programs, we focused in on some facts about seniors and holiday blues. And the top three that we focused on were because they have financial limitations, loss of independence, and most importantly, being alone or separated from loved ones. These are the factors that we considered. So we started out with our Thanksgiving food drive this year that was highly successful. We doubled our numbers this year. We had over 2,000 pounds of food items that were donated to our seniors this year, and 60 bags that were delivered, and another 60 bags that we had and we were able to deliver yet again. And what we were very excited about this year was that our city employees got involved, and not just got involved, they felt it was as rewarding to do this program as it was for the seniors to receive these gifts. And each work group, department, and section got together and they created these lovely bags so we could deliver them to the seniors. And if you look at the lower right-hand corner, that's the city treasurer's office. If you could see the dollar bills, they were very creative in getting these bags to our seniors. So here's some of our pictures of the food drive. And it was called the Get Creative campaign. Our other program that we do every year, it's a collaboration between Home Instead Senior Care of Burbank and our Home Delivered Meals program. We picked about 20 of our seniors who are the most low-income, most needy, and we asked them, what would you like as a gift for Christmas? And they came up with some basic ideas of what they needed, whether it be toiletries or a robe or a pair of socks. We actually were able to actually get one of our seniors a reclining chair because of a back problem that she had. So it was a really nice year for us to collaborate with Home Instead, and they've always been so good to our seniors. For the first time this year, we also had a collaboration and partnership with Subaru of Glendale. They approached us about a national campaign called Share the Love. And this event is a collaboration between a Meals on Wheels Association agency, such as ours, and Subaru of Glendale. And they donated 80 blankets to our seniors. And here are some pictures of that. And along with our holiday happenings, we also continued our case management services from July to December. We had 155 clients that we served, 120 clients that received information referral services, and our top 5 requests were transportation, housing, nutrition, and help with benefits enrollment, and of course caregiver referrals. Lastly, we are anticipating and very excited to participate in the March for Meals campaign. This is also a Meals on Wheels program, which, along with Meals on Wheels Association of America and an agency, again, like ours, will partner with a city official, possibly a celebrity, a local celebrity, or a local athlete, and have them go out on one of the meal deliveries so they could see the impact that these meals make on seniors' lives. So this program is from March 17th through the 21st. There's actually it's Mayors for Meals as well, so we're going to see if we can get maybe some of you involved in that. That actually concludes the report on senior services. Do you have any questions?
When you say senior citizens, do we have a certain group that we go to every year?
We do. We actually have seniors that participate in our home delivered meals program, and we focus on them because of their, first of all, they're the most elderly, frail, homebound, and we know that they're low income because we do an assessment.
Their houses, they're not housed in a retirement house?
No, they live independently, and we do these
see.
programs so they can continue to live independently.
Anyone have any comments, questions? No. As usual, beautiful job. It's got to be a feel-good.
It's a good ending.
Yes.
And I know Emil was very excited because he participated in our Thanksgiving campaign, so thank you to that.
Thanks, Maggie. So that's it, right? Are we?
That would be it.
Coco, ahead.
President Pro Tem Sharkey, if I may, during the staff comments, I forgot to mention our Arbor Day that will be coming up in March. And I know that we're still somewhat early, but given that our next meeting won't be held until late February, I figured this would be ideal to make this announcement. As every year, Glendale Beautiful, along with the Parks Department, will be hosting the Arbor Day event. It is, as typical, the first Tuesday of the March at 10 a.m. at Casa San Rafael, which is Casa Adobe, Tuesday, March 4th. We will have these flyers that are also the same. The flyer is the application itself for you to request a tree donated in someone's honor and or in memory. I will give my phone number to the folks watching. The residents, you may call me directly. I can get copies of this application for you if you're interested. My phone number at the office, 818 548-2054. And for commission, we'll invite you yet again next month to attend the event to be held at the Casa Adobe. Thank you for the time.
I have a tree, and I've given gifts as a tree, and people are just always thrilled. So it's
a great event.
For the record,
Iris.
the record will show that President Khan left the meeting at the end of item 6B3D, and Commissioner Sharkey presided over the rest of the meeting as President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Iris. We are adjourned.
Thank you.